Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, episode 223, the podcast where I get to simplify marketing and the mindset necessary so chiropractors can have more impact, more reach, more income. They can change more lives. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the 7 tools that chiropractors need so they can market their practice. Now, before we get into that, I want to take a step backwards. There are 2 things that we should be focusing on in practice. Practice is so full of complexity. It's one of the things that I've realized in my 25 years is that sometimes, I'm going to talk about overwhelm in a moment, sometimes it just seems like there is so much to do. And what I have found is if I simplify things into buckets, it can help bring some focus back to me. It can take that complexity and bring it back to simplicity, and I end up taking more action. So I really think there are only 2 things broadly that you and your practice should be focusing on. Thing number 1 is that you should be obsessing over how can I get better results for my patients. I think we sometimes forget about that, particularly on a podcast like this one where we're talking about marketing. And a lot of the talking that I see going on stage, that chiropractors are talking about around the stage of how do we do a better report of findings, how do I do a better initial consultation, all of these kind of things. But very few of us are talking about how do we get better results with our patients. In fact, I saw Tony Ebel recently. I didn't watch all of it, but in essence, he was saying this, is that you can't hide bad results. Like the one thing that the parents want when they're coming in to see you, when they're bringing their children to you, is can you actually help them? Can you get runs on the board? Now, we might be wanting to show them EMG scans and x-rays if that's what's appropriate, all those kind of things there. And they are important, but basically someone's coming to you with a problem. Can you help them with that? Now it's important. We need to be constantly working each and every year to get better at what we're doing. The second thing, once we've got a foundation built upon a really great product, is that we need to be consistently building massive amounts of goodwill with our community. Now, this is another way of me saying is that we need more people to know, like, and trust you. Goodwill really encompasses know, like, and trust. Now, it's this second part here that I want to kind of expand on today. And it's this second part here that often leads to overwhelm. Particularly if you've been in practice for any length of time, the thought of going out into your community and do I need to make videos and do I need to do all these kind of things there, we become overwhelmed. Now, the overwhelm, there are 2 reasons why we get overwhelmed. And we like to tell ourselves it's because of all the decisions that we need to make and all the technologies. But the biggest reason that we get overwhelmed really is that we use overwhelm because it's a safe way of saying that we're scared. And it's totally okay, because I can say to, my staff, my partner, oh man, I'm overwhelmed with this whole marketing. I don't know which platform to be on and how to shoot these videos, all these kind of things. We say that because we're less vulnerable than saying, you know what, I'm scared. I'm scared that I might make a video and no one will watch it. I'm scared that I might make a video and lots of people will watch it. Or I'm scared I might make a video and I might get some feedback that upsets me. These are all things that are much more difficult to deal with and take a lot more introspection and a lot more work and a lot more self-awareness. We'll save that stuff for another podcast. But there is certainly what's known as a paradox of choice. Which platforms should I be on? How do I make this video? What camera do I need? What should my website look like? There seems like there are so many things there. And the more choice that we have, then the more confusion we go into. Now, I think I'm going to simplify this because there's 7 things, and only 7 things that you need to have world-class impact in your community, for you to end up being 5-mile famous, for you to have a really great marketing community outreach. We'll go over what each of those are in today's episodes. So let's start with this. Now, here's the thing too. I think of these 7 things I'm going to share with you, I think 5 at least of them are free, which is fantastic. So it has never been easier than what it is right now for you to build an audience in your community. Now, yes, there's some complexity to it, but it's nothing like it was a decade ago. Let's get to it. The first thing that you need is a social media account. Now, which social media account do you need? Now, that is a great question, and I'm going to ask you your question back again, and I'm going to say, where's your audience? Where are the people that you really love looking after? What social media accounts are they on? So you could start by jumping online onto Google and just having a look at the demographics of the sites, whether it be Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, TikTok. You can clearly get great information there about what age groups are there. Or if you're already in practice, I'm going to suggest that you spend the next couple of weeks asking as many patients as possible, or at least having your front desk ask as many patients as possible. What social media platforms do you look on most regularly? And provided that the patient base that you have at the moment is the one that you want to continue to expand relationships with, then you should be on those platforms. Now, I have seen chiropractors have success on all platforms, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. Now, the reason they have success there is because they create great content, they build goodwill, they solve problems, they create relationships, but they're doing it with an audience that's already there. Now, I often suggest for people the safest place to begin is with Facebook and Instagram, and we can link those together. They're both owned by Facebook, and I put them under the same umbrella because you can now cross-post, and you have been able to for some time there, which means that whenever you post on Facebook, it goes on Instagram and vice versa. Now, they're also the biggest. It's where the most fish are. I promise you, your audience is across those two platforms, regardless of who it is that you're wanting to care for. Both young and old, they're all there. So they're a good spot to start. They're relatively easy platforms to begin with. But if that's not your thing, and TikTok is, then by all means start there, okay? As long as your audience are there, that's where we need to begin. Now, once you've chosen a social media platform, the next thing you're going to need, and these are in no particular order that I'm sharing them today, is you're going to need a website. Now, interestingly, websites are not cool and fun to be talking about nowadays. They used to be 10 years ago. There was a whole bunch of focus on websites. They used to be a big deal. But nowadays, we chat very little about them, and it shows in most of the websites that I review from you guys, because most of them look like they haven't evolved in any way in the last 10 years. They look dated and old, and they just look a bit kind of dusty. Now, if I come and have a look at your website and it looks like it hasn't changed in the last decade, that reflects on your practice. Now, a website is not a static thing. It should be constantly evolving, not at the same pace that your social media feed evolves. That's something that's changing certainly maybe on a daily, if not a weekly basis. But we need to be constantly updating. Now, if the photographs on there are clearly taken from 15 years ago, it shows. So you need to be updating your website regularly. Now, there are many options. When I'm thinking about websites, there's one thing that I think is absolutely right up the top end of what's important. You must be able to make changes to your website yourself. You cannot afford to, from a time point of view, a productivity point of view, and a reach out into your community point of view, be held hostage, so to speak, to some web developer every time that you want to add a blog post up there, change a photograph, add a new page in. Adding blogs and videos to your website used to be complicated 10 or 15 years ago. It's not now. If you can send an email, if you can upload a video up onto Facebook or Instagram, then you can certainly build a blog post. So you need to have a level of control over that. And as I said, this is not a difficult thing to do. There are many do-it-yourself sorts of websites, from Squarespace to Wix. I really like Squarespace. It has some beautiful templates that can look really great for us as chiropractors, as natural health practitioners. But what's starting to happen now, I have many coaching clients that have website builders actually build out their site on Squarespace, and then they just show them how to use it. So then they've got a level of control over their website, or at least their staff do, okay? WordPress is the same. So the two sorts of sites I really love is I really like Squarespace and I like WordPress sites. Now, I don't suggest that you build it out yourself. I do suggest that you go to a web expert, have somebody build out the site so it looks beautiful for you. But I'm really going to encourage you to have them teach you how to do the basics on it. Add a blog post, upload some photographs, make some subtle changes to some text, build some pages in there. At least you and or your staff need to know how to do this as well. Thing number 3 is that you need to be having email. Now, this doesn't mean that you're emailing your patients through your Hotmail account or your Gmail account. If you're not regularly emailing your patients, you are missing out. It's a very powerful way for you to remain in contact, in relationship with your patients, for you to continue to build goodwill and show value. You're 5 times more likely to be able to reach out and engage with your patients on email than you are through the social media platforms. Now, no, not 100% of your patients are going to open the emails. I was talking to my friend Martin Harvey the other day about this as we were putting together some welcome and engagement series. We're not after everybody to do everything. We're not after everyone to open our emails. We're not after everybody to watch our videos. What we're looking for is we're looking for our 1,000 true fans. I forget it was who came up with that concept, but I'm going to do a whole kind of podcast where I dive a little bit deeper into that. We want to be creating emails for the people that want to read them. Now, I get lots of emails that come into my email inbox. I don't read all of them, but there are some that I read almost every time from the people that I have that strong relationship with, that I'm a true fan of. I read those emails. Now, again, there are many options for what sort of email provider you can choose. I'm a big fan of MailChimp. It's come a long way in the last 2 years. It has some of the basic sophistications that we need in our email provider. We need to be able to tag and separate our list, our email, depending on whether an active patient or an inactive patient. Maybe you're starting to build an email of people who are what we refer to as prospects. They're not patients yet. And we want to communicate with all these people in subtly different ways. Maybe we want to do a reactivation. And so we want to email all the people that haven't had a visit for the last month, 6 months, year, whatever it is that works for you. And so we need to be able to put these people in different buckets and tags. MailChimp allows you to do those things. They have a free account. Here's another thing that's free that allows you to have up to 2,000 people on your list. That's a good start for most of us, 2,000 people there, depending on what you've got your database. When you're choosing an email provider, one of the things that I'm going to suggest that you look for is one that integrates with your appointment book. If they integrate, so for instance, many of the email platforms that each time somebody has an appointment, it'll kind of add a tag in there, or if they haven't had an appointment at least for 6 months, that what your appointment book can do can separate all those people out in MailChimp, for instance, and provide that list for you. So when you're choosing an email provider, go back to your appointment book, speak to them and say, hey, listen, do you integrate with any of the email providers? That'd be a good spot to start. But as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of MailChimp. So that was number 3. On to number 4, Google My Business. Now, Google My Business is a free tool that really allows you to organize your online presence across search and in maps. Now, I want to explain a concept called search intent. When somebody gets into Google or is on Google and types in chiropractor near me or chiropractor your suburb, Port Melbourne in my case there too, there's a really high level of search intent, which just means, hey, look, they're really looking for a chiropractor. They've probably got a problem and they're ready to do something about it right now. The search intent when somebody's on the social media platforms is very low. We don't hop onto TikTok or Twitter, Facebook or Instagram as a general rule for us to look for a chiropractor. We're on there to kind of goof around. We're on there to de-stress. We're on there to distract ourselves. Now, if I happen to see great content, if I happen to be having some headaches and you're sharing that, then I can build relationships through there. 80% of people are searching on Google. It's still the biggest platform going around. There are others that are starting to grow. And to be honest, I hope they start to add some competition to Google because competition is a good thing. Here's the interesting thing. 76% of people who are doing those local searches, like I said before, end up making a phone call. Now, if you are not appearing on page 1 and ranking on page 1, is really important for you to be getting those calls. Now, that's difficult to do. If you're ranked 1, 2, or 3, we know that you're going to get probably 80% of the calls that go in there. But if you're on page 2 and beyond, then you're going to get very few of these calls. Now, Google My Business listing helps to level the playing field, so to speak. Now, I've done and worked very hard to get my Port Melbourne practice, my old Port Melbourne practice, ranked up the top there. But now, Google My Business kind of pops up above that as well. 56% of you haven't claimed your Google My Business listing. It's really easy to do. Just head to google.com/ and I think it's business. And you'll find out there whether you've actually claimed it or not. Very simple to fill in. You'll need to put in some basic details about your hours, where your business is. You'll need to verify your account, but just work your way through step by step into that and make sure you set that up properly. Okay, Google My Business, in doing that and having taught many of the community influencer clients to do this, it immediately ends up with patients calling. Fantastic way, again, free, completely free for you to be there and for you to capture people who are actually looking for chiropractors, naturopaths, dentists, whatever you are. On to number 5. You need to have a phone. Where's my phone? It's just here in front of me. Your phone is a radio station, a television station, a newspaper. It is this digital device, a digital media device that lets you do the world's most wonderful things. The cameras on them now are extraordinary. The camera on my iPhone 12 is better than the $5,000 camera I had just a decade ago. Provided you use it properly. They can be a little bit tricky with audio, so we need to be in a quiet room. They can be a little bit tricky with light, so we want to make sure that we're in a well-lit area. But again, even if you wanted to add simple things like some lighting to your videos or maybe a microphone, they're super cheap. Now, most of you have already got a phone anyway, so whilst it's technically not free, you're probably not buying one just for the sake of you doing your marketing. And if your phone is 3 or 4 years old or newer, it's got everything that it needs for you to run your entire community outreach, your entire marketing from it. So again, it's your media device all in one there too. Again, people will often say to me, look, I want to buy another camera, and I love photography. I'm filming this now on, a couple of fancy cameras there. But mostly what tends to really work for a lot of our videos, authenticity-wise, is our phone. It's the device that I'm encouraging all of my community influence members to be using for the videos. So don't for one moment think that it's, substandard. It gives that lovely, authentic, natural type sort of feel. So you need your phone. On to number 6. If we're going to be making some videos, from time to time, you're going to need to edit them. Now, hopefully you're starting to train your staff, or you're outsourcing the editing of these. In fact, many times it can be tricky. I'm going to side note through here as well. There is somebody on your staff, or there's somebody in your immediate circle there that wants to edit your videos for you, that'll probably do a better job than you will, and they'll do it very, very cost effectively. Now, on one hand, you can go over to sites like Fiverr. There are many outsourcing sites that you can go to get somebody to edit your videos. And that can be effective, but you've probably got a staff member there that'll do it for you, who understands you, understands the messages going out there. One of my community influencer members, Chris, I've been talking about this forever, getting Chris to have somebody edit his videos. And he happened to be chatting to his neighbour. And lo and behold, his neighbour's son finished film school, doesn't have a job at the moment, is now editing Chris's videos. And it's taken a whole weight off Chris's shoulders. The cost is fantastic for him. He's got spare time where he can be working on other things. So get somebody to edit your videos. Now, that being said, you're probably from time to time going to want to edit some of your videos anyway. Maybe on the weekend you make a quick video, or if you're wanting to show your staff how to do it. There are many different ways. My favourite app, again, another free app, is called Vlo. It's VLLO. It's an app that works on iPhone and Android. It's a full spectrum video app. You can do amazing things there. Background songs and text on there, amazing transitions and speed ramps and all of these things. It's a more substantial video editing app than iMovie, and iMovie can do some wonderful things. So that's called Vlo. There are plenty of different video apps, and if you've got video editing apps, if you've got one that you currently use on your phone and you're super happy with it, by all means continue with that. But if you're looking for something that's simple, that's really effective, excuse me, that'll be great for you to make reels, short videos, long videos. It can change the shape of the video, so you can do them in portrait and landscape and square and you name it from there too. Then Vlo is a really fantastic video editing app for you to use. And as I mentioned before, it's another one that's free. 7th and final tool that you need as a chiropractor, if you're wanting to, have a huge marketing impact across your community, there is Canva. Many of you are already using Canva, but Canva is a online free graphic design platform. Fantastic for creating social media posts, amazing for creating workshops and flyers and presentations. You can even do some very basic video editing inside of there. Again, it's free, or there is a paid version that gives you access to even more stock images and sounds and videos. And even with the paid version, it's not all of that expensive. Canva, again, might be a tool that you want to be using, or it might be something that your front desk is using when they're wanting to put together, internal promotions, create flyers. There's no need for you to have marketing material now that looks like you put it together. When you're using Canva and things like that, it really looks professional. I'd hate to be a graphic designer at the moment because there's all these tools that make the average Joe Blow look really, really impressive. And again, speed of implementation is what's fantastic about these things. So these 7 tools, let's summarize those again. You're going to need a social media account. The social media account that you choose should be the one where your patients are. You're going to need a website. Gang, when was the last time that you updated your website? If you're not making regular changes and it hasn't had an overhaul in the last 5 years, then it's time to refresh that. You're going to need email. I'm a big fan of MailChimp, but check with which email service provider actually links in with your appointment book. That would be where I would start. Google My Business, get your account set up. Great platform that'll have you rocket right up to number 1 when you get that set up very quickly, which will get you in front of people who are actively looking for support. You're going to need your iPhone or your Android or whatever your Google device that you want to have from there too. They're all fantastic. Whichever one works for you, I'm sure will be fantastic. If it's 3 years old or newer, you're going to need to have a video editing app. I'm a big fan of Vlo, but again, if you've got one that works well for you, I do a lot of my editing just on Vlo now, and I have lots of fancy ones that work on my computer as well. And finally, Canva is a really great graphic design software. These 7 apps here will make you look fancy. They will help you share your wisdom with your community. They will help you build massive amounts of goodwill in your community. More know, like, and trust. And remember, the more people in your community who know you, like you, and trust you, the busier your practice will be. That's it from me, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Look forward to seeing you back here next week. Take care. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.